From what I understand, most of the critiques of socialism and similar movements were written and voiced by Shia scholars, were done at the time when these movements were an ideological and geopolitical threat. Do we have any new modern works that study the sources and practices of these movements in a reader-friendly and dialogue-friendly way?
Like which movements?
Maybe we can start with communism.
Communism is not a new thing. I think the question is about new forms of socialism.
No, I think what they were saying, I'm sorry if I understood the question correctly, what they're saying is that the movement was always there. But when the critiques were written, this was during a time when those movements were a threat. Really, people were kind of ready to listen to them, follow them. A lot of people were communists. A lot of people were, and communism was a geopolitical threat. But now it's no longer the case. Is there any new works that look into that ideology in a less antagonizing way and in a more open way that is more friendly and prone to dialogue? This is what the question is saying.
Communism, in the way which is understood based on the ideas of Hegel and then Marx and Engels, has the same problems, although its association with what Soviet Union did made it worse. But even without any reference, that idea is totally wrong because it's based on materialism and false ideas. But if there is a new thing called communism, new definition, totally new principles and ideas, then they have to present themselves and we can look into it. But those ideas were wrong, regardless of what happened in the course of politics. Maybe if there is a new movement that tries to bring to the attention social and communal aspect of humanity, that's good. But this is different from, Marxism and, communism that we know. If there is something new, then we have to see what's the new definition and how valid is that definition. If one person or few people have a definition, of course we can look into it, but we have to see what is in the academic world, in the world of theories and ideas is understood by this term, and then look into the principles and see what is fair about it.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. The next question is the following. It's talking about the names of the A'imma that are mentioned. The question goes as this in the hadith. So it says, why are the names of the A'imma mentioned? They seem to be only in traditions in Yanabi' al-Mawadda by Muhammad ibn Salman Qanduzi, and not elsewhere in other books by Ahl Sunnah. As in, why are the hadiths of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in which he himself mentioned the names of his successors only transcribed by Yanabi' al-Mawadda? Are there no other strong hadith in Ahl Sunnah sources which we can narrate?
There are different sources that they mention the names, and there are more sources that mention the qualities. For example, in the book Imama and Wilaya and also Lessons on Islamic Beliefs, we said that they have this set of hadiths, many hadiths, that the numbers of amirs and rulers after the Prophet are 12, and kulluhum min Quraysh. They have these 12 there, and kulluhum min Quraysh. And they have references to, of course, Imam Ali very much. There was no need to mention the name of all the 12 Imams, and because what is important is that the first Imam should be known, and then through the first Imam, the second, and then through the second, the third. If we have hadith that mentions the name of all the 12 Imams, this was a kind of extra bonus. Otherwise, there is no need to have from generations before name of all the Imams. What is important is that they had enough guidance about who would be the next successor to the Prophet, and they have these many hadiths that they are Quraysh, they are 12, etc. They are from Lady Fatima. But just to know that the next Imam is Imam Ali was enough for those who wanted to find out the correct position.
Thank you, Sheikh. And the last question for today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Given jinns have free will, what allows jinns to come and interact with humans in some circumstances but not others? Wassalam.
Given what?
Given that jinn have free will, what allows jinn to come and interact with humans in some circumstances but not in others?
Yeah, they have free will, but they have also limitations. They have limitations in their creation and of course limitations in Allah's legislation for them. Limitations in creation they cannot ignore, but limitations in legislation they may ignore, like committing sins. So maybe some jinns sometimes try to disregard what is right for them, but there are limitations in their creation that they cannot overcome. For example, their intellectual capacity and spiritual capacity seem to be less than human beings, and therefore they follow prophets who are human beings, and they may not have great philosophers or great scholars, although they may have scholars, but not like human beings. They have to rely on human beings for their guidance to some extent, for knowledge to some extent. Their life seems to be much more simple, not very much progressing, and also it seems that they are weaker in their will, so they can be captured by some human beings and control them, but they have more maybe physical power for movement and carrying things. They are much more capable than human beings. They are faster and they can move more easily and carry things physically more easily, but not spiritually and intellectually. One of the things that it seems that is in their creation is that to be surrounded by people is something unpleasant for them. Not only it is a direction for them not to interfere with human life, it is also something that it seems would be annoying them and difficult for them to come and live where it's crowded. So even those who are not obedient, they are afraid of being with human beings. It seems they prefer to be distant. And I think this is a wise way of creation that has kept them and human beings somehow separate so that they don't interfere too much in each other's life.